Hi. I wanted to share how I figured out how to cut a fat quarter for this pattern as opposed to using the layer cake, which is what Jenny Doan of Missouri Star Quilt Company. She used the layer cake and showed how to cut it, and she used a mini charm pack of like 2.5-inch squares to make this, but this is not very good contrast, but it's called Pop Stars, and it's basically your flying geese stars. And in order to make this, she cuts a layer cake. She shows how to do that, and it's super easy. And then she uses 2.5-inch squares or like a mini charm pack to do her little legs here, her geese. But I had fat quarters. I didn't have a layer cake, and so I did some math and figured out a way that works for me to cut layer cakes to make this, and I wanted to share that with you. But basically, what you end up out of one fat quarter is you get 16 2.5-inch squares and 8 3-inch squares and 8 3x4-inch squares and 2 4x4-inch squares, which is double what she was getting in the layer cake, right? So, because it's a fat quarter. And so that's what I'm using, and I am pairing them up with each other, sort of like these two blocks. Don't judge my blocks. But like this one, I paired up with this one, so they're like inside out of each other by using this method. And I'm gonna kind of have friendship blocks, I guess you could say, in the quilt, and I'll be sure to share that when I'm done with it. But it's working out really well, so if you're like me and struggle with cutting layer cakes or patterns, hopefully this will help you. Thanks for watching. Okay, let me know when you're recording. Oh, okay. So, in order to make the pieces required to make this block, the way I cut first is I make sure that this corner is good and that they're lined up on the bottom. See, it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that way on my mat. And they're lined up on this side that's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up that way. So I have 2 fat quarters here, because that's about as many as I'm comfortable doing, and even that's just barely comfortable. So the first cut I'm gonna make is a cut at the 15, I'm gonna move these out of the way. A cut at the 15, and this is the long way. I'm gonna cut it long side down. And what this does is give me a 3-inch strip that's scrap. That's because I like to do EPP, and I like to have some scrap left over. This could also be good for a scrappy binding, which I might do. Haven't decided yet. Okay, so this is a 3-inch strip that could be scrappy binding or just scrap. The next cut I'm gonna make is gonna be on the 10-inch. This is gonna give me a 5-inch strip, and from this is what I'm gonna subcut the 16 2.5-inch squares. So I'm gonna cut along the 10, cutting a 5-inch strip. I'm gonna set that aside for now. That's the 5-inch strip. We're gonna need that in just a minute. Now I'm coming down here, and I'm gonna I need 2 10-inch squares, right? So I'm gonna cut this at the 20-inch mark. That also gets rid of my salvage. So this is scrap or trash. And look, I barely had enough of that one. So usually this is trash, but that's actually enough to save for scrap for me. So put that with the scrap, that's with the trash. Now I need this into 2 10-inch, So I'm going to cut here on the 10-inch line. That'll give me my 2 10-inch squares. And now, if this is a pattern that's directional, which this is not, I like turning it before I put it on top because then it gives me more variety with this next part. But I'm just going to lay it straight on and double it up, and that way I'll have 4 layers of fabric I'm cutting, but it's okay. And now this is the part that actually Jenny showed in the tutorial I watched, because she was using a layer cake. So this part is actually what she did. So I'm going to leave it right here and cut on the 3-inch mark. And on on the 6-inch mark. Then I'm going to come onto this side and do the 3 and the 6 as well. We're almost done. So this is what you get from the layer cake. You get 1, 2, 3, 4 3x4-inch squares, or rectangles, 4 3x3-inch squares, and 1 4x4-inch square. But we still need our 2-inch squares. So I'm going to take this 5-inch strip that I cut at the beginning, and I'm going to subcut it right up the middle so that I get 2 2.5-inch strips. Whoops. And then I need to come down the line, and I love using this little ruler here because it's 2.5 inches. And I'm gonna subcut one more time so I get 2.5-inch squares all the way down. I need 8 cuts of this way. So 1, 2, 3,
6.
Okay. So that does not look square at all, but that is basically how I did it with a fat quarter.